We should probably then talk... We're going to go into some rumours. Let's do our rumours. This is WrestleMania rumours.
Yes.
There's a couple. The two biggest ones. You said last week about Stone Cold Steve Austin returning to the ring and I laughed at you. I'm going to continue to laugh, although, again, this seems to be picking up weight and steam.
Well, the fact of the matter is that Kevin Owens keeps this in Texas.
I don't buy into it from that. I mean, it's more from the point of view that, again, more sources supposedly convinced that Austin will be signing.
I mean, the thing is, he doesn't really need to do a lot. He just needs to do a stunner to really, for me, and that'd be it. The pop. Do you think it'll be like the John Cena Undertaker from Mania 34, where it doesn't have, we don't get officially announced until Mania?
I can't see how they'd want to do that. This would be Austin's first match in nearly 20 years. You'd have to advertise for it. You'd have to.
Well, you could easily have Kevin Owens just do something on day one, and then on day two comes out again.
No, you'd have to advertise for it, mate. You absolutely have to. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Think of the amount of people that probably don't watch wrestling anymore, but used to because of Stone Cold. And the news comes out, Stone Cold's going to have a match. Like, people, of course, people are going to tune in for it.
Yeah, that's true. But
they absolutely, I don't think that they could also, if Austin does have a match, they cannot do what you said there about Cena and Taker and have it be that quick, because people are going to be so pissed off if after 20 years, basically, and I'm not putting it past WWE to do it, like I think they probably would, but would you not be really, really annoyed? 20 years, and after what was almost really a perfect send-off between him and The Rock as a final match at WrestleMania 19, one of the best WrestleManias of all time, your personal favourite, my second favourite, because 17 pisses on it, but that's neither here nor there.
We're not doing a top 10 now.
We're not going to argue about something that's a fact. No, but seriously though, it is. It's one of the best Manias of all time, and it's one of the best retirements that wasn't a retirement, but was a retirement, because some people knew it would be, some people didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for him to wait now, and his concern has always been that he didn't want to basically stink the joint out, as they put it, right?
He has done a stunner pretty much every time he's appeared. It's not
difference between hitting a stunner though in one segment and having a full-on match.
Then again, look at, it's not the same, but when Taz and Joey Lawler had a match at One Night Stand 06, it was just basically a Taz mission.
Yeah, but that is completely different.
And Goldberg, really, some of his matches just been a spear, jackhammer.
Yeah, but that's completely different too, because Goldberg didn't have long matches. Like in WCW, Goldberg really did steamroll the roster. That's how he got over. It was when he was being made to have these longer matches, particularly at the start of his first WWE run, that it was starting to expose him. Yeah. Because he couldn't keep up. He didn't have the stamina for it.
Well, near the end of WCW's run as well.
But it showed, though.
Yeah.
It did show. Goldberg's better off having those matches, but Austin could tell good stories, really good stories in longer matches. I think it'd be awesome to see him in the ring, because I love Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like I honestly love Stone Cold. He is one of the best of all time. There is no debate.
Yeah.
To the same token, it's kind of like the Taker stuff, isn't it? Which he's also been open about himself. It's like it's not up to anybody else but that person when to retire. But like when you start seeing that they're losing a step, it's like it's hard. It is harder, because it's just like, oh man, like he's just like the harsh reality is, it's just like he's just not what he used to be. But I don't know, because we've seen a trend of people coming back out of retirement. Edge has done it and it's worked.
Yeah.
But Edge wasn't out for 20 years.
Bret Hart.
Well, yeah, but it depends what you're referring to there. What, the McMahon one at Mania? But that did not work at all.
But then later that year, he won the US title.
Yeah, I know, but...
And
But that wasn't really... But it's not really... But it wasn't really Bret, though, was it? And let's face it, again, that's a completely different situation.
Yeah, I don't think Austin's going to be on a chair because he's knackered.
But Austin's not had the health issues that Bret's had.
No, but the neck injury was bad.
The neck injury was bad, but he carried on. He still carried on after that, and then had a good career after that. Had a great career after that.
Yeah.
Brett's completely different. I mean, his injuries ended his career effectively, and then he had all these other health problems. You know, by the time he'd come in for that Mania match, he was a different man. And yeah, it was a shame, and it is one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. Like, it just is. But that doesn't take away all the, the fact that Bret Hart is himself one of the best ever to do it. True. So maybe this could be the same for Austin. He might come out here and, I mean, Michael's coming for that silly tag match.
Yeah.
Like you said about kicking Kane's mask off. And, he would have wished it had just left it at Mania where Taker retired him. But again, it didn't impact his legacy, I suppose.
No,
so it's
that old quote that no one in wrestling ever retires.
That's true.
Steamboat came back, Mania 25.
That worked, though.
That worked.
And he was on fire. He was great.
But then again, you did have Piper and Snooker,
But they couldn't really do as much.
No.
Steamboat really did steal the show with that one, but I don't know. I just don't know if I necessarily want to see it. I think Owens would be really... I mean, Owens is going to be a great opponent for him, if it is, because Owens he'll take all the bumps.
Or bump.
Or if it's going to be one and done, but he'd take all the bumps, wouldn't he? I mean, if it's going to happen, I'd want to be really optimistic because it is Stone Cold. But I just...
And I'd like to think it's one of the reasons why Kevin Owens stayed, not just because of money. But then again, it is wrestling business.
Business is business. But the other thing is, I don't know, because if it is going to happen, it's got to be
if they do,
it's got to be promoted longer because it's a month away.
Yeah, and if there was a episode of the Austin show, Broken Skull Sessions before, I know it's just in with Ron Simmons, but if they didn't want to, they recorded another one and had Kevin Owens beat him up. Like I said, kind of thing I want to see.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, man. We'll have to wait and see. We'll wait and see. It's picked up a bit of traction, hasn't it? But
I don't know if they will do another, if they do a Raw before Mania in Texas or not. But that could be a...
I don't know. If we don't see anything within the next week or two...
But like I say...
I'm just going to have to imagine it's not happening.
The thing is, he did turn up on Raw this week with a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
So it could be JBL.
I just think...
It could be...
Can you imagine if it was just JBL?
I think it could just be what they did at Mania 32, which was...
I think Austin just comes out and gives him a stunner.
Well, yeah.
And that's what I said last week. I still don't think it's going to be a match. I think it is just going to be a segment.
But it could be just like Stone Cold gives him a stunner, Shawn Michaels gives him a super kick, JBL does a clothesline from hell. Could be that's like everyone who's in Texas.
The only other way it might go down is how The Rock's last match technically has gone down. When he comes out and does an impromptu match with Eric Rowan.
Yeah. And
beats him in seconds. That would be it.
And that was...
But then is that really good? Is that really a good thing for Owen?
And that was the same venue, weren't it? Mania 32.
Yeah. Dallas, right?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, everyone... The Rock's the only one that's not been talked about, but during his match with Goldberg, Roman did the rock bottom.
Yeah. And also, The Rock did make a bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge statement on Twitter more recently after his... obviously, he was at the Super Bowl, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he did he said, and the millions, and somebody on Twitter had said I was really hoping you was, along the lines of I was really hoping you'd say, millions. And he came back to him and basically just said, don't worry, the and millions with a pause is coming.
Yeah. Well, did you see that the XFL and NFL are going to be working together?
That's cool. See, there you go. That's a forbidden door.
That's a proper forbidden door.
That's the real forbidden door.
That would not have happened if Vince was the owner.
No. Oh, man. Dwayne kicking down doors. But
speaking of Vince...
Yeah, speaking of Vince, good segue, Ash. Nice one.
Yeah, first time for everything in the show. Vince McMahon. 78-year-old Vince McMahon. Could
be having a match at WrestleMania.
With Pat. Big Pat.
Big Pat. You went to see it's McAfee.
No, I can't say it.
Yeah, I just don't know. I can't see this happening.
I do think it's going to be Austin Theory, though. Because the way that, I said about Austin Theory said on Vince that, you're going to be on Pat's show this week. And the last time you did an interview, you was 20 years ago. You nearly beat that guy up.
Yeah. Maybe that's actually really what we're going to get is Vince and Austin.
We never had it at Mania, which I think it could have easily done.
So he's talking about the last shoot interview he did, which was actually with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And they think that they're booking Vince and Austin Theory, but it's Vince and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then they got confused and put Austin Theory. And then Pat McAfee's just there.
To face Kevin Owens.
To face Kevin Owens.
This is weird. It's also weird because Pat's on SmackDown. Everyone else is on Raw.
Yeah.
It could be Corey Graves, actually.
What, Pat versus Corey?
Yeah, commentator v commentator.
I mean, I'm up for seeing Corey back in the ring.
He
But again, I just don't know when
said,
they're going to start bringing all of this into fruition.
Corey has said he is cleared. He's just not used him yet.
He was cleared before the Rumble.
Have you? Speaking of Corey, have you seen this trailer with him and Carmella? There was a trailer for their show.
Yeah, it's what is it called? It's just called Corey and Carmella, isn't it?
95% of the trailer was sexual.
Really?
About basically how they're going to fuck in the shower, how they're going to fuck in the bed. They showed Carmella's dildos.
That's not very PG.
No, but they showed Kirk dildos.
Oh my god, Carmella.
Yeah.
Dear oh dear, Princess of Staten Island.
Is she still called that?
Well, it shouldn't be now. She's waving her dildos about on TV.
Yeah.
Dear oh dear. Well, no, I don't know. I if Vince can take a bump at 78 years old, regardless of what and what I personally think about him and everything else, fair play to the bloody bloke. That's basically, he's nearly 80 years old. If he's going to take a bump, then fair play to him. But is it really necessarily what you want to see? No.
I think it's just hype to get people talking. But we'll see.
Which works, because we're talking about it.
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
I don't care to actually see it. I'd rather see something like a Corey and Pat, where Corey could get something out of it. Or if at least Pat was, because that's the whole point of a work, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole point of having that work there is that it does something for somebody. It has an end goal. It has a purpose. There's no point working someone for the sake of working them when it doesn't have an end game. The trouble is with WWE is that is oftentimes what happens because It's how that product seems to sort of operate. But I don't know. I just think that could they have a bit of a similar issue with New Japan where slightly different, but like we said, we speculated maybe certain travel restrictions and things would have maybe prevented, some of the American guys coming over. But then Rocky Romero was there, so I don't know. I can't really. I don't think it probably would have been that.
Well,
but you had a lot of the people from day one on day two, and WWE is not going to do that, presumably. No. So if you have to start bringing out Austin and McMahon, I'd rather have that. If I'm honest, I would rather have Austin and McMahon. If you're going to do it, but if you had to have them both, then I'd probably prefer that. But if Austin gets a put over, a Kevin Owens, then great.
He won't.
You'd have to. You've got to. I love Austin, but it's not his time now, and it's time that we start making real stars in WWE, and we stop clinging to the past.
But that's just wrestling in general at the minute.
Well, kind of, but then.
I think it's always been like that, though, isn't it?
No, not always. Made stars with Cena and Orton and Batista.
But they still use them.
Kind of getting there with Roman, aren't they? I mean, it's going a lot better now, but nothing like it was, man. Not in terms of star power. Nothing like it was. And that's why everybody has to come back for Mania. That's why Goldberg will be there. That's why we're still getting Lesnar.
But I'm still interested with the Roman Brock situation. It's just that because it's a unification match and they're probably going to get rid of the Universal title.
Well, the other rumour is that they're going to get rid of the Universal title and then replace it with a different world title.
The World Heavyweight title. But that might be just an internet theory, but...
Well, what else can you do?
Unless
you have a SmackDown and a Raw World Champion.
But they might... Could they end this brand split again?
Always a possibility, and that was rumoured recently too.
Which is funny when they just brought back GM mode.
I know. I don't know if they're going to keep the brands. Then it makes sense to just have maybe a Raw World Champion and a SmackDown World Champion. But because they've thinned the herd so severely in the last, 1 and a bit years, and like we said, it's likely that more will come after WrestleMania because that is their usual spring cleaning, as it were.
Yeah.
At some point, your roster's probably not big enough to have 2 brands worth when you've got mid-card championships as well. So maybe you do just have the one world champion. Maybe you do. But we'll see.
But would that mean that Roman would lose his... If Roman wins, which
he will.
I think he will.
He will.
Does that mean that his title reign will end and he will start a new title reign? If the Universal title does get dropped.
Good point, yeah. Probably would. Technically, it'd have to, wouldn't it? But I doubt they'd look at it that way. They'd probably just carry it on, wouldn't they? But
yeah,
there is another rumour, Ashley, that I deliberately didn't put down on the notes for you.
Go on.
Because I wasn't sure if you'd have seen this, as it was more Twitter related.
All right.
Recently released, and that is now in air quotes, Shane McMahon.
I know what you're on about.
So Shane, I think, does still work for the company in a capacity, just not with the talent in that sort of role. It must be much more of a back office type thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, he tweeted Hulk Hogan and asked if he had one more match left in him.
Yeah, because Shane and his kids were at New York Rangers, which is basketball in Madison Square Garden.
Uh-huh.
And he had a picture of Hogan. And yeah, basically asked, do you have a match in you?
If this year's WrestleMania marquee matches consist of Stone Cold, Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Trish Stratus. Not there's anything wrong with a lot of those names, but if we have to bring these people in for a WrestleMania, then there's a problem, isn't there? There is a bit of a problem. There is, man.
Yeah.
There just is.
But
I don't want to see it, so we'll just leave it there. But
did you see who answered the call? Who answered Shane McMahon?
No, I didn't see as far as who answered that. No.
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle. Now there is a guy that I would like to see maybe have one more swan song, because the Baron Corbin thing just didn't hit the way it should have done.
No. And
it really isn't anything against Corbin, but it should have been more of a big deal. And again, Corbin didn't get a big push after. If they was going to at least do something with Corbin immediately after beating Angle, then so be it. But I mean, Edge is already there, and he's going to be facing Styles, and that is, as we said before, a dream match. But even like an Edge Angle, if he was going to have like 2 maybe older generation guys working together, then maybe you do that. But I don't know, man. I really don't. We could get Triple H Cody
if Triple H is available. Because like we say, there's heart problem.
We could be getting another Taker match.
Do you know what this feels like to me? It feels like the New Japan versus Noah, but young versus old.
Well, it's, yeah, WWF versus WWE.
Attitude versus well, I wouldn't call it new generation, but
yeah, what is this current generation? What is this called?
PG era, probably.
Nah, we're out of the PG era.
Is it?
We went from PG era to like what I think they tried dubbing the attitude, reality era.
I think it's still called that. I don't know.
No, because we've had the Thunderdome era. Like, that's its own thing now.
True.
Thunderdome era. Let's name the era right now before we go anywhere else. This podcast stops right now until we end. Until we end. Yeah. Until we name the current era of WWE.
Let's see.
I think a strong contender is Brock's ponytail. The Brock ponytail era.
No, it's the Roman Empire era.
No, it's not a Roman Empire anymore, is it?
The Bloodline.
He's tribal chief.
The Bloodline era.
This is hard, isn't it? This is quite tricky. We should do a competition online. We'll put it out to the folks, to the listeners, to name the current era of WWE. And that is what it will be known as. And we will start the trend.
Of course, that's something.
And that's what it'll be.
Well, do you know what I think it's time for?
What do you think it's time for?
I think it's time for you to have a quiz.
You want to give me an impromptu quiz?
Yeah.
I'll do a few questions.
I got 2 sets of 10 questions.
Oh my lord.
But you can pick which one you want to take. Set 1 or set 2.